How's it going, everyone? My name is True Underdog, and today we'll be ranking the best DLC characters in Mortal Kombat 11 from worst to best. Now please keep in mind this list is based on their competitive viability and not their cool factor, because if it was, then I think Spawn would most likely win. So please let me know which DLC character is your favorite in the comments below, and without any further ado, let's get started. So sadly, in last place we have Sindel, and it does break my heart to say this because Sindel is arguably one of my favorite characters in the entire game to play. But even so, this list is not about my favorite DLC characters, it's about the best DLC characters, and sadly Sindel is just lacking in a few areas. Once again, I don't think any character in this game at this point in time is bad, and Sindel is not bad either. Look at this damage. This damage is really nice. Sindel hurts arguably more than most DLC characters, and you could also argue she hurts more than most characters in the game. However, of course, the issue is the opponent can break away immediately. None of it is guaranteed damage, and that's a big deal in Mortal Kombat 11. They can drop before the amplified even hits. Sindel doesn't get any damage before you can escape, and sure, you've spent both bars, and that's nice because Sindel has some mix-ups. She has some 50-50s, but even so, the fact that whenever she does manage to land that big whiff punish combo, you can just say no is a big deal, especially since damage is one of Sindel's greatest strengths. But let's talk about strength number 2. So Sindel does have 50-50s, this right here, an overhead. If she catches you with that, it's a pretty easy hit confirm and she can get a full combo. Let's tell the opponent not to break away. And then up close, she actually has a low that is almost unpunishable at max distance for most characters on the roster, and this once again can lead to a full combo. So she has some pretty good options when it comes to starting the combo. Now here's the issue. If you do block this initial overhead, Sindel has pretty much put herself in a lose-lose situation. She can land the 50-50s afterwards because she has an overhead and she has a low. That's true. She does still have one more mix-up to try and save herself, but it's a lot of risk with not much reward. In fact, let me go ahead and show that by taking control of D'Vorah. So right now I'm playing D'Vorah, and I'm going to tell Sindel to go for the low option and then block. So if I guess correctly here, full combo punish, whereas if Sindel guesses correctly, 70 damage. Not a big deal. That is only half the damage of a throw. So she barely even hurt me at all for that huge risk. If she had guessed wrong, I get a full combo. If she guesses right, barely any damage. And now let's try the other option that she has in this situation. So she could go for the whip and flip, and that's an overhead, right? And unlike before, a bit more damage, 120, that's pretty chunky, that's not too bad. But once again, if I block correctly, punish city. Full combo, and you can rest assured, even the most basic combo is going to do more than 120. So once again, Sindel is taking a very big risk with not very much reward. Now she does have the option to keep herself safe. She can do this. If she goes for that after I block the first 2 hits and she goes, I'm going to keep myself safe, then that can be a good option. But sadly, there's still one big problem here. Boom, flawless block. And when you do flawless block this thing, it becomes -13, so once again, a full punish. So aside from this one low option right here, Sindel doesn't really have any mix-ups that are worth the risk, which means that most of Sindel's damage comes from whiff punishing, and that means the opponent can just lame you out all day and build meter the entire time, and then if they finally do make a mistake, they can just drop out. And once again, all of her damage comes from launching you outside of Variation 2, but I've made entire videos on how Variation 2 is fundamentally broken. It has some wonky hitboxes, and the animation on hit for the opponent actually helps them escape the combos. So it's just a weird variation, and also requires a deep jump in too, which is never going to hit. So sadly, even though Variation 2 has the perfect solution to a lot of Sindel's problems with better hit confirms and also unescapable damage, at this point in time the hitboxes just don't work and you have to land a deep jump in too, which just isn't going to happen. And then on top of all of these other problems, Sindel is actually quite slow. Her fastest mid, right here, 14 frames. So outside of her down 1 and maybe her down 4, this is the move you have to get your opponent to respect, but it's so slow that it pretty much can't work anywhere, even this string right here. If they block that, you're +3, but this thing is 14 frames on startup, so a mash happy opponent can just mash out, or they can down 1, any number of things, and all you can do when you're plus is just down 1 back. And if that doesn't land, it's now their turn, so you've pretty much given up your +3 completely. and it's a real shame because I wish she had some way to reinforce that frame advantage, but she really doesn't. And this move also, really good move, right? But 19 frames. This overhead, pretty good move, although if you don't land those first 2 hits, the opponent can kill you if they know how to flawless block. But once again, this move very slow, 25 frames. Now, I love the range on this thing, and I feel like at a casual level, like this character is really strong. Against the average player online in Kombat League, if you want to have fun, Sindel is really strong, honestly. But at the higher level, especially at a tournament, Sindel is just going to hang herself with these 50-50s, and she's also quite slow, and she needs a hit confirm to get those combos, and even if she does, you can just drop out and then lame her out and build that meter right back. Once again, I really do love Sindel as a character, but that's her biggest weakness. She's slow, she has very risky 50-50s, and when she does finally hit you, you can just drop out and then run away and build that meter right back. And then outside of Variation 3, she can also lose very hard to keep away characters. And Variation 3 does help quite a lot with her low Star Screamer. This can beat a lot of keep away. It doesn't work super good against certain characters like Jade or even Cetrion who cover the ground anyway, but against a lot of projectiles, this can be a pretty good answer. And then she has the jumping attack, which is great for even the best ground projectiles and even characters like Cetrion or Jade. The problem is that Sindel gives up her combo damage in these variations, which is arguably one of the best things about her, and here she just doesn't have that. So better at dealing with keep away, but at the same time, if you want to counter keep away, you're just better off not playing Sindel. And next up we have Terminator. Once again, a character that I think is very fun to play and also very strong at the casual level, but let's go ahead and talk about his strengths and weaknesses. So for starters, he does have those 50-50s, so a low overhead. And unlike Sindel, this option is completely safe, -7, and if he wants to, he can actually make it a low-low. So he has like a double 50-50 happening right there. And if he does land this, crazy damage. I remember everyone, including myself, being like, what? 37% for 1 bar? That's ridiculous. And then he also has the overhead into a throw. And this thing is very duckable, right? The opponent can duck that second hit, and not just full combo punish, but also get a crushing blow, which is very terrifying. But once again, Terminator does have ways to keep himself safe. He can do stuff like that, and that can be pretty cheeky to go for an overhead low or an overhead into a throw. It's all very sneaky. And then also like Sindel, Terminator is not very good from far away. Certain characters can be very good at playing keep away, especially if they have a jump projectile or some sort of low projectile, something that just beats the standard straight high projectile. Terminator can be in a lot of trouble if you have a strong keep away character or just a strong zoner in general because he doesn't have the furthest reaching moves. He's quite stubby, so it's not very hard to actually lame him out even from around jumping distance. However, unlike Sindel, Terminator has a very fast mid, 10 frames, which means he actually can reinforce after landing a hit, or a down 1, or just after being plus. He can totally reinforce it with a very fast mid, and it's also a very easy mid to hit confirm. And once he lands his shotgun and spins the bar, he is now at +16, which means you have to deal with these very slow mix-ups. Normally, a masher can just avoid these by mashing in like every situation, but not after the meter burn shotgun. If he lands this, he is at +16. This low, you have to respect it. This overhead, you have to respect it. And if he lands it, especially this low, he's going to get a lot of damage, and once again, this low is safe, so not a very big risk. So in summary, Terminator is just like a safer version of Sindel. His damage is still very high, and he's also not very quick, but he does have a very fast mid, which can save him in a lot of situations, and it's also a good hit confirm, and he also has a very good combo starter that is safe on block. Now, I do believe there might be a flawless block gap there. Yes, there is, but even when you do flawless block it, it's only -7. So look at that, it's still not even punishable. You can spin bar and get a combo that way for sure, but it's still a very safe option. And then on top of that, Terminator has one more option. He can just do this, the 4-3-4. That does not have a gap. Now it is -8, and maybe some characters can punish it from this far away. I don't believe Devora is one of them, but some characters could punish this with an 8-frame normal, but most definitely can't. So really good pushback, pretty much unpunishable, and no flawless block gap. So unlike Sindel, Terminator does have some very solid answers, so he's just better at keeping himself safe while also doing more damage and also having access to more mix-ups. And then we have Nightwolf. Nightwolf is just a very solid character, honestly. Really good at footsies at around jumping distance. Pretty darn fast, 13 frames of startup, very easy to hit confirm, and it's not an unsafe option at all. And then he also has this, which can then lead into a mix-up. It's got a low right there. And his overhead also. Very good range on this overhead. Now with that said, even though Nightwolf does have an overhead and a low, you may have noticed no low starters, even this move, which does appear like a low. It actually hits mid. So Nightwolf's lows actually only happen on the second hit. So this overhead isn't really a mix-up, but even so, it does catch players ducking a lot of the time. And even better still, it has an option to keep itself safe. So you press 4, you're pretty much safe against everybody except Raijin Raiden. That's about it. Everyone else cannot punish this safe option. And then if you see it land, very easy to actually hit confirm it and get your combo started. Now Nightwolf's damage, unlike everybody else so far, isn't actually very high. It's below average. Now thankfully Nightwolf does have the option to buff his damage, and once he does that, he's doing around average damage, which is nice. Once again, Nightwolf is a very solid character. I think the reason he's not higher on this list is because he's sadly just a very honest character. Nightwolf doesn't really do anything cheap. He doesn't have any ridiculous 50-50s. He's not deleting your health bar even with the damage buff, and since it takes so long to start up, it's honestly really risky to even go for it. So most of the time he is doing below average damage, and he doesn't have the 50-50s. However, Variation 2 actually does have a legit 50-50, and it's right here. So that last hit will catch you trying to jump, and you're going to want to try and jump sometimes because otherwise that command grab is straight up guaranteed, and when he spins the bar, he's now like plus 70 on hit, which means he can go for this overhead and just do the whole thing all over again, and you still have to guess. Now the thing is, you're not taking too much damage here, so that was 2 bars and you're only about a 4th dead. So that was 2 mix-ups and it cost me all my offensive meter, so it's not the biggest mix-up, it's really not killing you, and you're also losing access to his main combo extender. He no longer has the Rising Tomahawk, so he can't do the combo damage he normally could off his hit confirmed. So while he does get some nice tick throw setups, and his command grab is admittedly a pretty darn good command grab with really good damage and very good hit advantage, it's just not a very good trade-off to lose all of his best hit confirms into a full combo. And then we have Variation 3, which I think might still be his best variation, but it seems like a lot of Nightwolf mains or even people with a pocket Nightwolf have gone back to Variation 1, but I still think Variation 2 can be really nice, so his combo damage is still just fine. And he gets the knockdown, and he's plus 17. It's still decent damage, it's not great, and it's certainly not as good as Variation 1, but it's still okay combo damage when you keep in mind he now has 50-50s. So he has this low, which means now that certain strings like this, which ended in overhead and would never actually land if the opponent was blocking, now they might actually land because he has the low. Now, is it a fuzzy guard? Yeah, it is, sadly, but online can be pretty strong, and if you do this low attack often enough, they're going to start blocking low, and then boom, you land this crushing blow, which would otherwise almost never happen. And there's more 50-50s than just that. Any string that normally ends with an overhead, he can now replace with a low for a solid 50-50. Now, of course, once again, the damage you get for that mix-up isn't very much, right? That low, not very damaging, and outside of this crushing blow, the overheads aren't very damaging either, but thankfully to make up for that, he has a mid-hitting projectile. And the startup is still just as good, and the opponent cannot duck this ever. He does not have to spin the bar anymore, and even better, if he wants to cancel it now, it's actually a threat, because before they could just neutral duck that first hit and uppercut you, and even if you wanted to cancel it, they could still uppercut you because you can't cancel it right away. But now they have to actually respect this option because if they want to attack too soon on block, they're going to get hit by that mid. And then if they respect it, you can cancel and then go for a throw. So he does actually have legit cancel mix-ups in this variation too, which is why I think it might be the best variation. In summary, once again, Nightwolf is a very solid character. I would argue that he's jack of all trades. His combo damage is okay, not special, but it's okay. And he has some very good footsie range. He's got some very nice hit confirms. Some decent, okay mix-ups. They're not 50-50s, but they can still catch the opponent if they're not blocking correctly, and that's nice. But once again, he's just a very honest character. He's got nothing really dirty, so if the opponent studies up his options, he can't really trick them with anything. And then we have Shang Tsung. Now, if we were talking about vanilla Shang Tsung when he first became available as DLC, he would likely be at the very top of this list because the guy was just really darn strong. Super easy and solid hit confirms with a ton of range. He can also keep himself safe, and while there is a flawless block gap there, he can just do ground eruptions and catch you for trying to do that. And then of course on top of that, the guy just has ridiculously strong zoning. You just can't stop this guy. When he ends his combo with the ground eruptions, you just have to deal with the corpse drop. You can't do a thing about it. And then if he spins the bar, it's an overhead low, so he has a 50-50 mix-up projectile that even catches people at high level because they just don't expect the amplify. And the guy also just had some really solid conversions, so if he did a jump in kick, the guy would just get a full combo, which back when he did even more damage was that much stronger, but even now it's still a pretty good threat. Now with all that said, Shang Tsung did get a pretty severe damage nerf. He now does below average damage, but even so, he's still one of the best zoners in the game. And then of course we gotta talk about Variation 3, because Variation 2, let's be real, Variation 2 pretty much doesn't exist at a competitive level, but Variation 3 has been shown to be quite viable. This move right here might be a bit slow on startup, but it's like a gigantic wall that hits everywhere in front of and above Shang Tsung. So if he thinks you're gonna jump and he does this early enough, he's just gonna snag you doing anything at all. He's just gonna catch you. So it's really strong and also leads to a full combo, and the damage in this variation might be even lower than Variation 1, but I feel like it's actually even better at zoning and even counter zoning since he has the smoke shake. If done properly, this move can counter every projectile in the game very well. And then Shang Tsung's pressure also becomes better as well because he has overheads, but now on top of that he has a slide. So now that overhead actually becomes that much more threatening. Do you block the overhead to make sure that you're safe from the crushing blow? Because if so, he may just keep sliding on you over and over and over again. And he also has this string. This string has an overhead, but now it's a low. So he does actually have some legit 50-50s. This string right here, it's a low overhead. Now it's a low low. And these are all pretty easy to do because they start off with a back input. So back 1 or back 2 or even back 3. So you just do forward and then circle or forward 4 and you get the slide really easily. It's a very easy way to do mix-ups. And then of course, best of all, when it comes to pressure, he has the super kick cancel. So pretty much anything he can now cancel into the kick and then cancel out of it and go for a throw, all that good stuff. So even if you are blocking all the 50-50s that Shang Tsung does potentially have in this variation, instead of that, he can just cancel into rain, turn back, and then throw you. So he's got a lot of crazy offense in this variation too, some pretty darn decent pressure, which he normally wouldn't have. So even though his full screen pressure is arguably a lot weaker, he's better at counter zoning, and he's also better at controlling space immediately in front of him. All in all, even though Shang Tsung did get nerfed quite a bit, especially in the damage department, I think his Variation 3 made up for that by making him that much better at offense and pressure. And then we have Spawn. Now Spawn hasn't been out for a super long amount of time, so he could actually end up being even better than where I currently have him on this list, but as of right now, Spawn has a lot of cool stuff going for him. So for starters, he can hit you without even putting himself at risk. So this cape does not have a hurt box, so he can hit you and you can't hit the cape. It's not possible. And these chains right here, they can hit you, but you can't hit the chains, which means very easy hit confirms. So Spawn just dominates at around jumping distance, and if he lands the hit, he has meterless launchers as well. Now that overhead, very risky, so he does have to hit confirm it, but even so, he still has a meterless combo starter. And if done correctly, he's still getting 33% for just one bar and a very easy whiff punish. And he also has a very solid projectile, very fast on startup, and it's also a great way to keep himself safe. If he amplifies, he's now unpunishable. He's either neutral or just barely minus, so it's a very strong projectile. It allows him to move in and pretty much just guarantee keep himself safe after any one of his strings, so it's very good. And then if his opponent is just blocking all the time, he also has the cape, which can cancel into a throw or just into more pressure. He has a lot of stuff. He can also keep himself plus, so that's plus, pretty darn good, +7. He has this, which is then +4, and there are weaknesses to both of these. This one has a flawless block gap, and the other one right here can actually be straight up interrupted, but even so, he's a very strong footsie character who can also make himself plus, so that's very solid. He's not the easiest character to play, especially if you're a beginner, but once you take the time to master him, he can be a very strong character in the neutral. And then if you're in Variation 2, pretty much every touch turns into a full combo. Normally all he really has is this, but now anything he does can lead to a full combo, like this dial-in right here. You can special cancel that second hit, and now you get a full combo, or you can just extend this right here, and the combo goes on for a bit longer, so he now has even better hit confirms. So put simply, Spawn is kind of like Cetrion if Cetrion could also delete your health bar. He has some really solid footsies, especially at around jumping distance. You can't even hit him. And then if any of these things land, he gets a full combo, which can then drain your health bar in the hands of a good player. And then the other variations are honestly just icing on the cake. So you have variation 1, which has a low parry, and that can just destroy certain characters who rely on those lows in their strings. Because not only can Spawn parry them, but he can cancel that parry for a full combo. And then you have variation 3, which is just a mix-up monster, and it's great against players who have solid defense, because if you can't open them up normally, you can just use mix-up after mix-up after mix-up. And even though the combo damage isn't that good, once again it's perfect for players who just love to block because you just keep mixing them up. And then finally in first place we have the Joker. And it's not just because Sonic Fox won Final Kombat, though that was a big part of my decision. The more I look at Joker, the more I realize how solid and strong this character is. So for starters, he has a meterless launcher, just like Spawn and even Terminator, which means his combos don't cost him any meter unless he wants them to. And then on top of that, this is actually a safe on block launcher. It's only -2, which is quite ridiculous. Now you could duck that final hit, but if you go for that, he has an option. He can just go for a mid, and that's still safe on block. So he either has a safe launcher or an even safer option, which doesn't launch but still staggers you at +11, and if he wants to, he can also special cancel that. And every time he does, he's that much closer to his crushing blow. And then once he's a bit further away, Joker has possibly the best footsies in the business because of this cane right here. This forward 2 is ridiculous. Once again, a very easy hit confirm. And if it counter hits, he gets a crushing blow, and then this meterless launcher actually relaunches for even more damage when done mid-combo. And the second hit also hits overhead, which isn't a very big deal at high level, but I swear that's actually caught me online a couple of times because I just forget that he has it. And then after that, Joker has even more mix-ups. He has a low right here, or he has an overhead, both of which are pretty darn scary and hard to react to, especially online. So on top of having a meterless safe launcher and being really good at the footsie range with a crushing blow counter hit that's also very easy to hit confirm, he also has 50/50s when he's close to you. And did I mention this one low mix-up is actually safe on block, because I think that's quite important. And even this cane right here, pretty darn hard to punish, -11 but pretty far away. He's a very low risk, high reward character in the neutral. And then if you're a bit further away than jumping distance, he has this, which will crushing blow if that second hit lands. Now it's not a very easy crushing blow to land, and it can only special cancel, but even so, it's just kinda crazy how Joker is strong at pretty much any distance. Now of course, Joker isn't the best at dealing with projectile keep away. He doesn't have a very fast projectile himself, but he does have, in variation 1, this move, where he ducks down, and once he ducks, he actually avoids all high projectiles, and the opponent has to deal with all of these shots. Like, there's no way to really escape this, so he's actually okay at counter zoning. It's not where he wants to be. He'd much rather be at jumping distance or a bit closer, but if he is further away, he does have options for dealing with keep away. And in fact, once he does manage to knock you down with any sort of shot, he can just spin the bar on the jack-in-the-box and now move in, and you have to deal with this thing. So he's got ways to approach you even when he's further away. And then once Joker is low on health, he's arguably even scarier because he can dash cancel his fatal blow. And once he does, he gets access to his throw crushing blow, which of course does a lot of damage, and then on top of all of that, he could just dash forward and go for his mid. It's 11 frames on startup, so he can make you block something, fatal blow, dash forward, and then just do his mid, and you have to deal with it. But if you're scared of his throw, maybe you're going to be pressing buttons or neutral ducking, at which point he catches you and gets either a hit confirm or in variation 3 a full combo. And honestly, Joker's variations, just like Spawn, they're kind of just icing on the cake. I would argue that variation 2 is his best because he gets more of the setups, and he's basically plus on block every time you get up off the ground, so you have to deal with his pressure and his mix-ups. And then of course variation 3 has the best combos but loses some of his mix-ups. But honestly, no matter what variation you pick, Joker just has such a solid toolkit, and that's what makes him scary. His universal abilities are what make him good, not his variations. The variations are more just to help you out in different matchups, once again very similar to Spawn. No matter which one you pick, your character as a whole is very solid with their universal kit. And that's why, in my honest opinion, Joker is the strongest DLC character in the game at this moment, because unlike every other DLC character that came out recently, Joker has not been nerfed. Now of course Spawn hasn't either because he just came out, but if Spawn does get some major nerfs and Joker remains mostly the same, then at that point he definitely will be the best character in the game, and I think it would be hard to argue otherwise. But please let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. What does your DLC tier list look like? Please let me know. And then while you're down there, go ahead and leave a like if you enjoyed the video. It really does help my channel out a ton. And finally, why not keep that combo going by subscribing and ringing that bell? That way you never miss a future video. Make sure to come back next time, and as always, stay underdogs.